Hello everyone, my name is Brett Mitchell, married to Michelle, almost 30 years now, and we have 3 grown children. My dad was a bank manager, so our family travelled a lot. And it was around that time my eldest brother, who was 13 years older than I was, first became a Christian and then encouraged Mum to connect with a local church on this move back to Melbourne. That was Blackburn Baptist Church, all those years ago in the mid-70s. Well, his 3 younger brothers were encouraged to attend that same church, and he actually took the time to express and share the gospel of Jesus Christ with each of his 3 younger brothers. In my late teens, had an encounter with God and really haven't looked back since. It was Blackburn Baptist Church that picked us up, discipled us, invested in me, and basically in my early 20s got an opportunity to be a student pastor there, serving amongst the youth at Blackburn Baptist Church. Well, Blackie Baps became Crossway Church, and after serving there for some time, had an opportunity to serve at Diamond Valley Baptist Church in my later 20s, early 30s. That was a great time in our life. We had a young family, and I served there as the youth pastor. Again, here was another church that invested in me, that believed in me and my family, gave us opportunities to serve, and we were there for about 4 years. Well, Crossway had moved by then onto a new site, and they recycled me and they put me back into ministry, and for the next 10 years we served in various capacities as an associate pastor there at Crossway. About 8 years ago, my family and I were challenged, and each of us were challenged with the notion of church planting, starting something new. And so we did that in Craigieburn. We moved up from the Bible Belt of Melbourne, as it were, and we're out now in what I'm deeming the revival belt of Melbourne, Craigieburn. It's a hard work, it's a steady work. We're encouraged in God, but it's a hard area in which to plant a new church. In the words of William Carey, we're sort of just plodding along at the moment, but enjoying God's favour.
Hi, my name's Cathy Cudlipp. I'm married to Mark, and we have 3 gorgeous children, adult children, Mandy, Sam and Steph. I was 7 when I came to faith. My parents taught us the love of Jesus, the stories of Jesus, and I came to a faith. At 14 I was baptised at Sindel Baptist Church, and music ministry became very much part of who I was at that time. Later on I became a nurse, and I left on maternity leave, and that door closed to that chapter of my life. Later on I went to volunteer and then to go on staff at Canterbury Baptist Church, where I was helping out in the church office. During that time, our youth pastor at the time, Yvonne Lindner, said to me, "Cathy, are you using all the gifts that God has given you?" And it kind of took me aback, and I had to think about that. She took me along to the Crossway conference in 2007, where I felt very strongly that God was calling me into pastoral ministry, but specifically to preach. At that point I began to object, because there was one thing that I was very afraid of, and that was microphones, and there was no way I was going to be able to preach. But God seemed to have a different understanding and a different idea for me. And so that started this journey and into pastoral ministry. It began in 2008 at Whitley College, where I began my Bachelor of Theology, where I'm still studying, doing a Master of Theological Studies now. I'm currently working as a sole pastor at Sandringham Baptist Church, and along the way I was a children's and families pastor at Canterbury. But God's been doing amazing things in my life, and He's been very good and gracious to me and taught me many things along the way. And if someone had asked me back when I was as a student leaving high school, they would have given me that certificate that said, "Girl most unlikely to be a pastor," but it seems that God has got a different plan for my life.
I'm Emily Simpson, and I'm one of the pastors at Melton Baptist Church. I'm married and I have 2 kids, James and Mari. And my journey towards ordination began at a young age. When I was about 8, I had a burning passion and desire to share the message of Jesus with those around me. And as I grew and as I experienced the transformation of Jesus for myself, I began to think about how I would express that, and I studied social work when I finished high school and began working as a social worker, but I became dissatisfied with the lack of opportunity to to talk with people and minister to people on the spiritual side of things, and so I had an opportunity to begin working at Hume Community Baptist Church, and I began formal ministry in a role there. And after the birth of my son, I had cause to consider the question, am I living a life that's fully committed to Jesus? And so as I considered that, I considered ordination and began on that journey. And so ordination for me is about the affirmation of the broader Baptist community for a call that I felt for a long time, and a desire for me to continue to connect with people who haven't heard about Jesus, and to provide a sense of hope and an opportunity to consider their own spirituality. And so as I move more towards ordination, I'm excited about having that call affirmed and being a part of the broader Baptist community.
Hi, I'm Enes Bowen. I'm married to Luke Bowen, who has been my husband now for 9 years, and we've just recently had a little baby girl, Zoe. We've been ministering together since our early 20s, back in the days when we were doing youth group, and now we do ministry together at the church at Moreland, and my husband also works in the hospital. I'm currently the lead pastor of the Moreland Baptist Church. My role at the Moreland Baptist Church is really to encourage people to have creative connections with the community and create life in community. A few years ago, I was a youth pastor at the Melton Baptist Church, and that's really how I came to faith. The youth group's name was Living Proof, which is really apt given that I believe that our faith needs to be lived outside of Sundays, and that's what we try and aim to do at our community. The light and love of God has always been present in my life. I was raised a practicing Catholic, and really going to the Baptist church and being baptised in my early 20s helped me to see that I had a choice. I had a choice that I could follow Jesus, and also a choice to help others and lead others there as well. My call to ordination was a gradual one, but a very touching one when I did come to Whitley and start studying with colleagues and learning that I actually do love teaching and have a passion for teaching people about Jesus. Ordination for me is not an arrival, but yet another part of my journey and my call.
My name is Mang. I have a family here. I have 2 sons and 1 daughter. We came here to Australia as refugee status. When I was 5 or 6 years old, my mom brought me to the jungle and prayed for me with her friends. They prophesied for me that you are called by God to serve Him one day, but I didn't understand what they said. But when I was 17 or 16, I personally had the calling of God to serve Him. Therefore, I went to Malaysia and worked for 3 years. And then when I have saved enough money for studying, I went back to Myanmar and studied theology, and I obtained Bachelor of Theology in Myanmar. When we arrived here, I thought that my vision and the calling of God is gone, but God gave me more job in His ministry. I was ordained last couple of weeks, so ordained is more effective tool for my ministry. I'm pastor in Australia's Open Church. Australia's Open Church have a purpose, 2 things. One is to spread the gospel to all the nation. The second is to unite the Zope people in Australia. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Miranda Ng. I come from Hong Kong. I've been married to Vincent for 36 years. We have 2 wonderful sons and a gorgeous granddaughter. She's 6 months old now. I'm currently the pastor of Sindel Baptist Church in the Cantonese congregation. I come from a teaching background. I've been teaching for 30 years before I respond to the call. And I realized that education can enrich our knowledge, but it can never save our souls. I have a great passion for people, and I love to bring people to Christ and see their lives being transformed in salvation. In 2004, I responded to the divine call, so I left my beloved career. I joined BCV and finished my first theology degree in 2007. And after that, God led me to Simpson Baptist Church and served Him until now. Ordination is never on my agenda, so it is interesting. But however, I'm deeply humbled by the grace and the privilege that God has granted to me. I'm very grateful for the opportunity of all the equipments that has been shaped me and equips me. In my culture, ordination is about recognition and respect. For me, it is much, much more than that. It is a faith and spiritual formation journey that shapes me, prepares me to serve the Lord according to His will. As I look back, I'm thrilled to see how God worked in my life. A magician's glove does not work on its own. It is the hand inside that breathes life in it. For me, this is my experience with God. That is how I see He works in me and through me and show His love to the people around us. Nothing will happen without God. So here, I come in awe and in faith. I commit myself to honor God in the rest of my life and let Him work in me and through me.
G'day, my name's Marcus Curnow, and I'm mad about Jesus and cricket, which is why I have this today. I grew up a minister's kid, so I knew God from an early age, and I had lots of leadership opportunities around the church, particularly in youth group and at the cricket club. I was school captain. I brought this today because this is actually key to my conversion. I knew God, but I was actually a kid in my cricket team who was forgotten and bullied, suffered mental illness due to abuse that went on in that church, who actually called me out as a young 18-year-old man about the way the church culture affected him and the things that I didn't see, the things that I missed, the ways that I'd failed him as a friend. And at that moment, he became Christ to me. Christ who comes to us often from the margins or on the edge. And that changed my whole life and choices and career ideas, and I've spent the rest of my life hanging out with those sort of kids and really drawn to Christ who comes to us on the margins. Often that's been around food, around the table at Urban Seed in the city, Credo Cafe, eating with homeless people, or where I work now at Newmarket Baptist Church, where I'm pastor and we run a people's pantry. And I suppose that's another passion of mine, is food. My sort of leadership, I believe we can only renew our society and the church through discipleship. A disciple of Jesus that's creative, that's radically engaged with the social and cultural issues of our day, and that's as beautiful as an ordinary life. And that's why I'm Baptist, because it's a movement of just ordinary people who are free for mission, free to read the Bible in our own ways and think about it. Free to be local, free to be diverse, freedom of conscience. It's been great Baptist leaders and people who have mentored me and nurtured me and been there for me around those things when I've needed it most. So that's why I'm here today, to continue to play some of my part and the call that I've had to continue to be part of this journey of renewal and change.
Hi, I'm Paul Huglin. I'm a 53-year-old baby boomer. I'm also an associate pastor at Diamond Valley Baptist Church. I was brought up Catholic, went to Catholic schools, and people that were I was deeply influenced by the Catholic priests and the Christian brothers, and from a very young age wanted to be a priest. But unfortunately for the Catholic Church, but fortunate for me, I met April, my wife now, when I was a 15-year-old, and I remember having a wrestle with God about picking her over him, and because for me it was also a choice about losing this dream of being in pastoral ministry. Fast forward to the year 2000, April and I are living in Greensborough. We've got 4 kids, and I had just left a 20-year career in engineering. And it was Christmas, and we were looking for a place to take our kids to church, and I wanted to go to a place where I absolutely knew I knew no one, and felt led to go to Diamond Valley Baptist Church. It was a case of walking into a church, enjoying it so much that we stayed, and I love the Baptist community that we were part of and have become part of. Within a few years, I felt God starting to reawaken in me and stir up in me a sense of pastoral call. And so I started theological studies at Ridley College. And in 2008, I was called to be an associate pastor on staff at Diamond Valley Baptist Church. Not long later, I started a journey to ordination that led me to pastoral formation here at Whitley College, and this is where we are today. So I'm really looking forward to being ordained into ministry, Baptist ministry, serving God. There's a scripture in Romans where Paul basically says, as we get together, I want to encourage you in your faith, but I also want to be encouraged by yours in mine. And that's pretty much sums up really where I'm at the moment.
Hello everyone, I'm very excited to be able to share a little bit about myself. My name is Paul Joy. I'm married to Sharon and we've got 3 wonderful kids. I grew up in a Christian home, and so we grew up going to church every Sunday, wearing my Sunday best. And for me, over time, church has changed. It's probably become more something that I can experience and own for myself and be part of myself, which is part of my faith journey as well. For me, to sum up my journey thus far, and this whole move towards ordination is an extraordinary journey that's stretching me and challenging me, and it's uncomfortable at times. I began my working life after doing lots and lots of work in kids ministry and youth camps and mission trips, and as a teacher. And that's where I became familiar with this idea of a chaplain, a school chaplain. It was a path or a journey or a road that I'd never heard of before. And now I'm on that road. I'm a chaplain and soon to become an ordained chaplain, working in a school that spans ELC or kinder right through to year 12, and all of the families and the staff and all of the associated people and the community that goes with that. It resonates with me, Psalm 77, where the psalmist is reflecting on God's provision and God's protection, reflecting back on Exodus, where they were led to the shores of the Red Sea, and there was nowhere to go. Pharaoh had changed his mind and his army was chasing them, and yet the road led them to the sea, your pathway through the mighty waters, and yet it was a pathway that no one else knew was there. And the pathway, of course, was right through the Red Sea. Extraordinary story, and my journey has been along pathways that I hadn't seen before. Pathways, roads that I'd never even heard of before, and now I'm on that road. Funny, isn't it? God knew. And I'm just seeking to be obedient now through this pathway to ordination. Continuing to be obedient, continuing to be stretched and challenged, and sometimes I've just got to follow his lead. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Richard Lee. I'm a pastor at Northcote Baptist Church. I have been married to Rowney for over 80 years. We have 2 lovely daughters, Victoria and Annie. I was born in China and grew up in a traditional Chinese family without any connection with Christianity. I came to Australia in 1999 pursuing graduate studies in IT. And my wife later joined me, and we finally settled in Melbourne. I think in my early 30s, I was lost in the course of my life quest. At that time, I encountered the loving and the living God at a Christmas Christian camp. In there, I think God saved me, and the following year, I was baptized together with my wife, and I became the first Christian in my family. And later, my parents became Christians, and last year, my only sister was baptized as well. When I was just saved, I really felt God called me to a pastoral ministry. However, it took 5 years for me to answer that call. Start a ministry at Northcote and my theological training at Whaley. My ordination process for me is part of my journey of spiritual and pastoral transformation and formation. I have been supported and accompanied by my family, my church brothers, sisters, and the fellow candidates, teachers, supervisors, and my mentors as well. Through the journey, I think I have extended and deepened my understanding of God, myself, and my calling. And I have identified my gifts as a pastor. So yeah, now I'm convinced that God, with clarity, God has called me to be a pastor serving His kingdom. I'm passionate about discipleship, spiritual direction, and intercultural conversation, and a missional church with one culture, only one culture, God's kingdom culture. I'm really looking forward to next part of my journey, ordination, but I know that that's just a new beginning for my journey with God and with His people. Thank you.
My name is Chris Rowney, and I'm the Senior Pastor at Torquay Christian Fellowship. I clearly recall a time when I was probably in primary school, and after the service one morning playing with friends outside, looking up at the steeple and having this feeling come over me that one day I would be the minister at a church like this. I've always loved learning, and especially science and physics and history. And I remember as a teenager coming to own my faith for myself. I was fortunate in high school to fall in with a group of like-minded young people from all over the state that met at Scripture Union leadership camps. And while I was there, I remember the feelings that I had as a younger child looking up at the steeple returned again with quite great strength, that I was called, I felt, one day to pastoral ministry. And so really continued a journey that saw me eventually marry my beautiful partner in ministry, Robin. We moved overseas to study theology because we felt the time was ripe for that next step. And while we lived in the United States, our daughter was born. At the dawn of the 2000s, we came back to Australia and spent a couple of years just settling into Canberra again as a family before the call to ministry just became a now in my ears. And so we responded to the call to Torquay Christian Fellowship, where we've been ever since. It sometimes seems an odd or an alien thing, I think, when people speak of the sense of being called or drawn to ordination and pastoral ministry, but in one sense I've never not known that to some degree in my life. Even my fascination with learning, with science and with history, I think is just another expression of that faith seeking understanding. And to borrow from Eric Liddell, I believe God made me for a purpose. And while I enjoy so much in all sorts of realms of life, when I preach, when I lead a worshipping community, I feel His pleasure. And the depth of wonder and the richness of love that I've experienced in knowing God just compels me. And so this is the journey that I'm on. And ordination with the Baptist Union of Victoria is another of the milestones on the way.